Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be sort of how to achieve a really flawless foundation and concealer base. I go through all the steps from skincare to primers to what you should use to apply your foundation, to what type of foundation. If you have any questions about your skin type or your foundation type, like what sort of foundation would suit you best, just leave it in the comments down below and I will try my best to get to you. If not, DM me on Instagram because I'm always active on there. I hope you find this video really useful. It is aimed towards people with dry skin because I've got dry skin, but you can still apply these tips to your everyday makeup routine, even if you've got oily skin, combination skin, whatever. Please remember to like and subscribe because it really does help me out. So if you want to see how you can achieve a really flawless base, just keep watching. Okay, so I think the most important step to your foundation and your concealer looking absolutely flawless is skincare. If you don't prep your skin properly and you don't really moisturize, your foundation is just gonna sort of like cling to your dry patches instead of like really nicely just sitting on your skin. So I've already washed my face with the Simple Water Boost face cleanser, and now I'm just applying the Ordinary Hyaluronic Acid. It's really good for people with very dry skin. As I said, I've already washed my face and I've also applied a toner to my face. I like to use just like a hydrating, soothing toner in the morning. The toner that I used was this Simple toner. You have to remember always to moisturize. Regardless if you've got dry or oily skin, you still need to make sure you moisturize. To moisturize, I'm using the Vitamin E moisturizer by Superdrug. I had an allergic reaction, I'm not sure to what, the other day, and I got a huge like allergic reaction rash on my forehead, so it's gonna be interesting filming this video with that rash. So that is my skin all prepped, just really moisturized and hydrated. I like to have a facial spray at hand, which I spray in between my steps. So not only does the finish of your foundation rely on obviously what foundation you use, as well as your skincare, but also what sort of primers you use, because if you use a really mattifying primer, then even if you use a dewy foundation, you still might look a little bit too matte. This primer is the poreless putty primer from Makeup Revolution. It's supposed to be a dupe for the Tatcha Luminous Silk Canvas, which I think is like £50, if not more. And I'm pretty sure this one was only £8, so I highly recommend it. It smooths your pores without really mattifying your face, which I really like because I still like to have a glowy look to my skin. So for primers, that's all I do. Sometimes I like to do a bit of a liquid highlight, but right now my skin is quite glowy and hydrated, so I'm not that bothered about that. I do want to talk about what foundations are good for your skin type. So I've got dry skin. I like to go for foundations that are liquid foundations. I like to go for more glowy rather than matte, just because I feel like a lot of matte foundations really cling to my dry areas. If you've got oily skin, you might want to go for a more mattifying oil-free foundation, which probably will look a lot better in your skin. I wanted to show a few options, too drugstore, too high-end, just so you have options. You know, I don't want people to think that you need to really be using expensive makeup to have a really nice finish. So I really do like the Nars Sheerglow foundation. I might use this one just because, you know, it is really good. The color match is really nice, but this Revlon Color Stay for normal to dry skin is literally a dupe for the Nars Sheerglow, and this one's about £42 and this one was £8. The Wet n Wild Photo Focus Dewy Foundation, which is the new one they released, and this Bobbi Brown Skin Foundation with SPF 15. So this one's got a bit less coverage and it's a bit more glowy, but they are very similar. I'm gonna go with the Nars Sheerglow. So I think your foundation and the way that it looks on your skin is also very determined like by what you use to apply it. So I used to always use buffing brushes, you know, something like this to just buff in all the foundation. And I found that doing that just lifts all like the dry skin and gives me like a lot of texture. So as you can see, this foundation's got a really nice finish. It's glowy, but it's not too glowy. Like, I know people with oily skin that still like this foundation. I prefer to use a sponge. Like I said, this sponge is from ShopMissA, where everything is like £1, but the only thing is like the customs charge is so expensive that it sort of defeats the purpose of having such cheap items. A really good alternative is the LA Girl one. They sell LA Girl on Beauty Bay and it's almost identical to a beauty blender. So when you're applying your foundation to your skin, you want to make sure you're like patting it in and not swiping. You also want to make sure that you use a wet sponge. All it's going to do is just make the application a lot easier. I like to use a more medium coverage foundation and then spot conceal with the full coverage concealer wherever I have blemishes, rather than using a full coverage concealer as well as full coverage foundation. I feel like that just looks too cakey. This concealer is the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop concealer, and it is a little bit more drying than like the normal concealer that I use, but it's okay because it's like just for spot concealing and not under your eyes. You want to make sure that the concealer that you use when you spot conceal is the same shade as your skin. You don't want it to be lighter like you do when you go under your eyes, because what we want is for these blemishes to blend into your skin, and if you put a lighter concealer, all it's going to do is make them just stand out. So a little trick I like to do is get a hydrating spray. This is like the Serum Mist by Barry M. Spray your sponge, or you can spray your face, and just go over everything, making sure that it's all really blended out. Make sure you blend down your neck. Even though this foundation is like a really good match for me, you still want to blend down your neck. Okay, now for concealer. As you can tell, I've got pretty dark under eyes, and just putting like a light concealer under there won't cover that for me. So you want to go in with a peach concealer or something a little bit more pink with a pink undertone. So the whole idea behind this is that those blue tones under your eyes are going to be cancelled out by the peachy orange concealer because it's opposite in the colour wheel. So the one I'm using is the e.l.f. 24 Hour Hydrating Camo Concealer. I am going to let this concealer sit under my eyes for like 2 to 3 minutes. In this time I'd normally do my eyebrows or some eye makeup, but obviously got it done already. Okay, so now this concealer's been sitting under my eyes for about 2 minutes. I'm going to get the same sponge that I used for my foundation and start blending it out. When you blend this out, you just want to pat it in place. You don't want to drag it under your eyes. So you want to concentrate this where you need the most coverage. So as you can see, it's literally covered so much more just because we let it sit for a couple of minutes. So as you can see now, we've got a really sort of flawless base, but we have no dimension. So now we need to use a concealer that's like 1 to 2 shades lighter than our skin tone to sort of highlight back and bring some more dimension back into our face. So to do this, I'm using the Conceal and Define Revolution Concealer in 6.5, and I'm just sort of putting a little bit, skipping out this section and putting it where I want to highlight. This concealer is a little bit more on the dry side, so I'm not going to let it sit to like dry down. You want to get your serum spray and spray your sponge again, and then just go and blend this out. So I like to bring my concealer to the sides of my nose, which will slim down your nose, and then to the top of your cheekbone, which will lift this section. So one little tip that I think is super important to getting really smooth concealer is making sure you moisturize under your eyes before you put your makeup on. So when you put your moisturizer on, bring it under your eyes. The last step to lock all this in is powder. you know, you don't want your makeup slipping and sliding around. Even if you have dry skin, you can powder your face. You just have to do it in a very specific way. Fortunately, I don't have a drugstore powder to show you, but this is the Laura Mercier powder, and as you can see, it's like really big. This I think was about 30 something pounds, which sounds expensive, but it will last you for a really long time, and it's honestly worth it. It's such a flawless powder, and it's the best powder that I've ever tried. So I was skeptical for a few years to buy it, but then I finally bought it and I realized what all the hype was about. So this is a little trick, don't even know if you'd call it a trick, that I like to do. So I like to blend out my concealer because you don't want to have any creasing, and then go in the lid, pick that much off, and then sort of dust it off, and then press it into your under eye. I'm picking up like not a lot of powder, like I'm just dusting it off on my hand and just pressing it in. Bear in mind, if you have oily skin, you might want to powder your T-zone a lot more than I will. I still do powder my chin, my smile lines, because my foundation creases in there, so a good little thing to do is just press it in, and that way your foundation won't crease in your smile lines. The whole time that you're applying powder, you want to press it in. You don't want to swipe, you don't want to move around all the product. By pressing it in, the powder will work its best and really just blur all your pores, all your fine lines under your eyes. I don't really like to powder the rest of my face. I feel like it makes me look a little bit dry and cakey. So when you finish powdering, you might feel a little bit dry under your eyes, even if you've used a very small amount of powder. So what I like to do is just grab my hydrating spray. You can use anything, this one's really cheap, and I do use quite a lot of it, so just spray your face, fan it, and then instead of fanning it to let it dry, get the bottom of your beauty blender and just press it in. This is gonna make your makeup and all the powders you've put on just really melt together. So as you can see, it looks very smooth, very flawless, but it still has this like skin-like element to it and a bit of a glow that makes it look quite flawless and natural instead of cakey. So now you can just go about putting your bronzer and your blush on like normal. I don't set the rest of my face, I just apply it right on top of this. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna go finish my eye makeup, and then I'll be back at the end to show you some close-up clips of the skin. So this is the skin completely finished with blush and bronzer. I don't even have highlight on. I just put that same serum mist and sprayed it all over. Honestly, it gives such a nice glow. Full coverage without looking cakey, without looking like a mask, and without clinging to dry spots, which is something that I found really hard, you know, when trying makeup. Like with dry skin, it's so hard to try and get a flawless finish, but using these tips and all these steps will really help you like maximize that. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found this useful. I hope you can apply these tips to your everyday makeup. Please remember to like and subscribe, and like I said in the beginning of the video, if you have any questions on your skin type, foundation type, all that stuff, don't hesitate to just send me a message and I'll try my best to help you. So thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.